In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how one specific interval can help you write awesome chord progressions that sound like this. How's it going? Dave here. My channel is all about helping you create awesome neo-soul and R&B sounds on your guitar. So if you're new here and that sounds like something you're interested in, make sure you click that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that you're notified every single time I release a new video. Let's talk about today's subject, and there's a particular interval that was common with all of those chords you just heard, and it was a semitone. So let's play a semitone. Sounds gross, doesn't it? But in the context of a chord, it sounds really, really nice. We're going to break down this process into 3 steps that will show you how you can build chord progressions using semitones. Step 1 is to pick a key that you're going to play in and then identify where the semitones are in that key. So we're playing in the key of B minor for this example. So let's take a look at the notes in the key of B minor. So we've got B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, and A. Now, where did the semitones occur? So the semitones occur between C sharp and D, and they also occur between F sharp and G. What we've got to do is try and look for where all these simultaneous semitones, either C sharp to D or F sharp to G, appear on the fretboard. So I'm not going to show you where these intervals appear on the bottom 2 strings. You'll see why in a second. So let's just see where we can find a C sharp and a D on the fretboard. So on the A and D strings, we've got the 4th fret and the open string of the A and D strings. Then if we move to the next 2 strings, the D and G strings, C sharp is up on the 11th fret of the D string and D is on the 7th fret of the G string. There we go. Now if we move to the G and B strings, we've got C sharp on the 6th fret of the G string and the 3rd fret of the B string is D. There we go. And then where else can we find it? We've got C sharp at the 14th fret of the B string and then the 10th fret of the high E string. Okay, so those are the locations of the C sharp and D. Now let's take a look at where the F sharp and G is. So F sharp is at the 9th fret of the A string and G is at the 5th fret of the D string. Cool, so then F sharp to G on the D and G strings. F sharp is on the D and G is on the open string. Then if we want to look at the G and B strings, F sharp is the 11th fret of the G and 8th fret of the B is G. Then we are looking for F sharp on the B string, which is the 7th fret of the B string, and G is the 3rd fret of the high E. So we've got all those different options, okay? So there are 8 different places there that we can play our semitones, either C sharp to D or F sharp to G. Tuning wise, we're going to have to tune the guitar down to drop D. So all you're going to do is, if you don't know what drop D is, play standard tuning, but our lowest string is just going to go drop down to a D. And this makes things a lot easier for step 2. So step 2 is to build a chord progression using power chords. Now the reason we're in drop D is that we can use one finger to play these power chords. So for example, if I wanted to play an A power chord, all I have to do is bar the bottom 3 strings at the 7th fret. I'm sure if you've been playing guitar a while, you probably know this already, but for those of you who don't, that's why drop D works so well. So we're going to create power chords with one finger, and we're going to play a chord progression. So we're in the key of B minor. I decided to choose a B power chord, and that obviously implies B minor, then an A power chord, which implies A major, so that's at the 9th fret, then the 7th fret, then one at the 5th fret, which is a G power chord, this implies G major, and then one at the 2nd fret, which is an E power chord, we're implying E minor. The reason why we're implying these chords is because we don't have a 3rd in any of these chords, it's just a root and a 5th. Now, if you kind of struggle to come up with chord progressions and you don't know which chords work in which order, what chord to go next, then definitely down in the description, check out the first 2 chapters of my book, Chord Charisma, and that's going to show you how to do exactly that, as well as add cool extensions to your chords like 9ths, 11ths, and 13ths, get them sounding really jazzy. But let's continue. We've created our chord progression. We've got B, A, G, E. And this leads us on to step number 3, and that is to add the semitones on top of our power chords. So what we want to do is play the power chord. Because we've got 1 finger here, we've got 3 spare fingers to do our weird semitone interval shapes. So obviously you're going to want to find the ones that are closest to your power chord. So you could choose either C sharp and D, or you could choose F sharp and G. It doesn't really matter. So at the beginning of the chord progression, I decided to choose the C sharp and D, which is at the 11th fret of the D string and the 7th fret of the G string. And I played this 9th fret power chord with my middle finger. So that sounds really nice, but we do have a spare finger. We've got our ring finger not doing anything, so we may as well put it somewhere, and you don't need any music theory knowledge to do this. You just put it somewhere that sounds nice. There you go, I've put it at the 10th fret there. Now that sounds really awesome. And remember, they sound really horrible on their own, these semitones, but in the context of a chord, just absolutely beautiful. And they add a slight tension to the chord as well, I find. So next chord that we're going to be playing is this A, which is at the 7th fret. So what I decided to do, play it with my index finger, use my little finger to play the 11th fret of the G string, that's an F sharp, and then my middle finger to play the 8th fret of the B string, and that's a G, so we're playing the F sharp to G semitone on top of the power chord. Now in the example you heard, I didn't use my ring finger, but I'm pretty sure it'll probably work somewhere, so let's try it on the 9th fret of the high E. There you go, that's an interesting sounding chord. I don't know what chord I've just made, but it sounds cool. Then I decided to go to A, of course. I'm using my middle finger for the 5th fret of the low D, A, and D strings. And then I used my little finger for the 6th fret of the G string and my index finger for the 3rd fret of the B string. And we get the C sharp to D interval there. That sounds really nice. My ring finger is not being used, but again, we could put it on the 5th fret of the high E string. I'm sure that will probably work. There you go, it sounds really nice. And then I played this chord here, so now this is the one case where I didn't actually use a power chord. I completely skipped the A string. So I'm playing the 2nd fret of the low E string, or what is now the D string. Then the 4th fret of the D string. I played the G string open, that's where our semitone is, C sharp to D, sorry, F sharp to G. Then we've got the 3rd fret of the B string and a little finger on the 5th fret of the high E string. Really, really awkward chord to play, it kind of hurts, but sounds beautiful. Then we went round the cycle of these chords one more time, and I changed the semitone intervals that I used. This was the next chord I used, so when I'm playing the B power chord at the 9th fret, I used my little finger on the 11th of the G and my index finger on the 8th of the B to create a semitone, that's F sharp to G. There we go, sounds quite nice. Then I moved to the A power chord at the 7th fret. Now I put my little finger on the D string at the 11th fret, and I just barred the 7th fret with my index finger. So we get this 11th fret of the D string and 7th fret of the G string, which is C sharp to D. It sounds really nice. Then for this chord where we play G, this is what I'm playing, 5, 5 on the low D and A strings. Then I'm playing 4 on the D string and open on the G. So we've got that semitone there again, the F sharp to G. And then I just played the 3rd fret of the B string because my index finger wasn't doing anything. So there we go. And then to close the chord progression out, I didn't actually use a semitone, I just played an E minor 9 chord. So I'm just playing the 2nd fret power chord, letting the G and B strings ring out, and I played the 2nd fret of the high E string with my ring finger. There we go, that's how we can create awesome sounding, unique chord progressions and chord voicings using semitones. I found that it's a really, really useful trick because you wouldn't be creating these sorts of chords if you didn't really know that this semitone trick was a thing. They're really, really unique. You don't hear them a lot and they really, really work very well. What you can do in between these chords is add your lead runs. Stuff like that with the pentatonic scale or just the natural minor scale, and it really just adds an extra dimension to what you're playing there. So that's not what this video is about, but just try to kind of add those little licks in between your chords and it will make your chord progression sound that much better. That's it for today. Let's just recap the steps. So step 1 is to choose a key and identify where the semitones appear. Step number 2 is to create a chord progression with power chords in drop D. You could do this in standard tuning, but it's going to make your life 10 times harder. So once you've established your power chord progression, we move on to step 3, which is adding the semitone intervals on top of these chords. So if you found this video useful, make sure you click the like button and let me know what you thought in the comments. Are you going to go out and create your own chord progressions using this technique? If you are, let me know, and if you create some and post the video, tag me on Instagram @DavidLovejoy. I will check them out. I'd be really, really excited to see what you can come up with. And make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And if you're looking for more awesome, unique neo-soul and R&B tutorials, then make sure you check out this video here and you won't be disappointed. I'll see you there.